Moin, moin. I gotta be honest with you guys. I studied computer science in college. It's very, very unlikely that I am a rock star. Being in front of a stage of 6,000 people was not in the cards for me when I was studying. But here I am. So I'm not gonna waste it. Let's have it again. Moin, moin, are you guys ready to rock?
Yeah.
All right. All right. So I've been at Facebook for 11 years. Back when I started, it was still called The Facebook. It's before Justin Timberlake, for those of you who've seen the movie. My name is Andrew Bosworth. People call me Boz. And I gotta say, one name, it's pretty rock star. Just Boz. It's like Sting. I'm here at Online Marketing Rockstars to talk to you guys about the future. Now, as it happens, we're all terrible at predicting the future. Just awful at it. Really the worst. So instead, I'm going to talk to you about change and how to get yourself ready for change and how to adapt for it, and maybe even how to shape the future that you want to see. I got to be honest with you, my rock star days are behind me. This is just an excuse for me to show you how cute my kid is. He's very cute. I think we can all agree on that. But when I first started in the software game, those were pretty rock star times. And I want to share with you right off the bat, right at the top, my recipe for success. Do you guys want to know my recipe for success is?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, here it is. It's 1 part scotch. It's 4 parts vodka. It's called the Smoky Biggs. Bartender, I know it's a little early, but could you find your way to some scotch and some vodka for me? Maybe a little ice? Thanks. Well, I'm going to get that in a second. Now, I don't usually lead with this story, but since this is a rock stars event, I'm going to go ahead and do it. This is 2006 Facebook. Me and 5 of my closest friends all joined at the same time. We got a house in Palo Alto. Facebook was born in Cambridge, Massachusetts, at Harvard, but it grew up on the mean streets of Palo Alto, California, in the heart of Silicon Valley. Now, we were all programmers. We were young, so we worked hard. We partied a lot. There was a lot of beer. There was a lot of beer pong. There were apparently matching shirts, which I'm not responsible for. All day, this is really a true story actually, all day I was eating $2 canned chili and drinking Smoky Biggs and writing code. And all night, the only thing that changed is I stopped eating the chili. I'm gonna go get this drink actually. Are we getting close? He's really putting care into this drink. Look at this man's doing work. I think you guys are this is the first job he's had this morning. You guys gotta put some orders in.
I have a question.
Uh-oh, we were getting early.
Where's Mark while you were partying? Where was Mark?
Mark was at a lot of these parties. We've got Dustin Moskowitz is in one of these pictures. But he was hanging out. He was here. There we go. This is what I'm talking about. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Whew. Well done, man. That takes me back. I was drinking these when I coded the first version of Newsfeed. My time in Facebook, the first 7 years I worked on the consumer product, I built the first versions of Newsfeed, Messenger, and Groups. In the last 4 years, I've been working on our ads business. And I remember drinking these while I was coding it, sitting there at night, people kind of partying in the background. But you have to remember, Newsfeeds were original. Today, everyone's got a Newsfeed. LinkedIn, Twitter, Google+. Heck, I think even MySpace had a Newsfeed before they went under. I couldn't find a screenshot of MySpace, so this is just me wearing a MySpace magazine taped to my shirt. Now, I want to take you back to the launch. This is really strong. Philip, wouldn't this be more fun if Philip was drunk? Here, you have some of that. I'm healthy. You're good. That's a strong drink. It's hard to remember today, but 10 years ago, everything was very different. When we launched Newsfeed, it was very controversial with users, and that's a story everyone's heard before. But it was also very controversial with the technology press. When we launched it, they asked us this question. They said, well, what are you going to do about your page views? Now, take yourself back 10 years and remember that people's careers were made, lives destroyed on this little thing right here. Hit counts. Remember hit counts?
Yeah.
This little counter would go. There's a guy, the page is under construction. It's a sweet GIF. So when we launched Newsfeed, of course, we took what would have been 20 or 30 different page views and put it in one place. And the tech press was going to ask us, what are you going to do when your page views plummet? And I tell you the honest truth, until we were asked that question, we hadn't even considered it. It just never crossed our minds. You know, we were trying to build social impact. We weren't chasing stats. And I always wonder if Facebook had been a conventional company that was worried about the metrics that we were being judged on, what would we have done instead? Would we have built Newsfeed differently so that every story loaded on a different page? Would we have maybe rolled the feature back when people objected to it? I don't know, but I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be standing on the stage where I am right now. So what did we know back then? Well, that's the topic that I want to share with you guys today. That's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about innovation.
Can I just ask one thing in between? I'm sorry for
I
jumping
insist
in
that
so
you do.
early.
No, please do.
What was
Only if you order a drink.
I will.
Okay.
This is gin tonic. I can't do the hard stuff.
I don't like to drink alone.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'll join in. So what was the inspiration? I mean, how did you come up with the idea? Did you see anything that kind of made you think, well, I could, transport that right into Facebook? Because now it's obvious that it has to be there. Like, we cannot think without the newsfeed. But what made you come up with the damn idea?
You have to remember in 2006, when you showed up at Facebook, your homepage had a giant finger on it and the number of times you'd been poked. That was the honestly God homepage of one of the most popular websites on the internet 11 years ago. And so what we saw was people really relentlessly going profile to profile to profile, trying to remember what had changed since the last time they saw from their friends. So Newsfeed was kind of obvious if you saw what people were doing, if you were really paying attention and not fearful of changing a thing that you already had. And that's this whole idea of innovation. I mean, a lot of people are here looking for tips. I respect that. You're looking for tips on how to turn passion into action. That sounds like a tagline for Tinder. That's not what this talk is about, okay? This is about recognizing real opportunities for innovation like we did with Newsfeed, and not some buzzwordy bullshit. So let's talk about how it works. The innovation pivot is a three-step dance. You have to understand what it is you actually do. You have to structure yourself to adapt, to make change. And you have to commit to those changes. You have to take risk. I want to go through these one at a time. The first one is understanding what it is you actually do. You know, it sounds simple enough, but this is actually the toughest one. I want to start with a historical example. I went to college in New England. Now, does anyone here know what the most popular industries were in pre-industrial era New England in the 1800s? Shout them out. Fishing. I like that. That's probably correct. I don't know. Yeah, this isn't going to work because I can't hear you, so I'm just going to say things and we'll pretend like we played a game. Yes, good. Textiles. Good answer, sir. Textiles. Shipbuilding. Good for you. You know your history. Mining. Very good. Out in the back. Way in the back. Incredible voice. Mining. Yes. And a lot of those are still industries today. Okay. But there's one that we're missing that none of you geniuses have yelled out yet that I can hear. It was a luxury item, highly sought after, very pricey, and it was, I'll give you a hint, it's a critical component in Philip's drink. But it wasn't the scotch or the vodka. It was the ice. Nope, there it is, ice. See, before refrigeration, ice making was a huge industry. Some of the world's richest families who lived in the stateliest manners were the barons of the ice trade, which is a great name for a band, by the way. Tell me you couldn't imagine the barons of the ice trade just shredding on this stage right now. Fact. Great name for a band. Dibs. In New York City, Trump Tower is actually built on the former site of Charles W. Morse's mansion, the Ice King of New York. In Europe, you had the Norway Lake Ice Company, the Vienna Ice Company. And you might be left to ask, well, how did they make ice? Well, they didn't make it. They went to a frozen lake and they cut it out. They just got themselves a saw and they just started carving. And they'd pull out a block, they'd toss it on a horse cart, wrap it in straw, send it to market. The most rock star thing you could do in that time was serve someone a drink with ice in it. That was balling out of control in 1850. So this is real big money. But there's something happened. In a story all too familiar to those of us in Silicon Valley, an inventor came along and he changed the ice-making game. A Florida doctor by the name of John Gorey invented and patented one of the world's first refrigeration devices. Got himself a nice little write-up in a magazine called Scientific American. Now that article caught the attention of those ice barons up in their ice palaces. Now, what do you think they did about it? Do you think they called up Dr. Gorey, tried to buy his patent? Do you think they partnered with him to bring this to market? No. No, they fought it. They fought it hard. When Dr. John Gorey went to New Orleans to seek venture capital funding, the ice lobby sabotaged him behind closed doors. Dr. John Gorey died a broke and broken man. But the invention of refrigeration carried forward. As the technology got better, the ice lobby fought a public relations battle against it. They said lake ice was natural. It cleaned the air. Why not? But as the technology got better and better, cheaper and cheaper, nobody is drinking Geneva Lake ice anymore. Now, if they had pivoted, these once great ice companies might still be with us today. Refrigerated cargo and containers are the cornerstone of globalization. Refrigeration has been a boon to global health and nutrition. And air conditioning is not too bad either. So what happened? Why didn't the ice barons embrace the ice machine? You know, they could have brought all of this to the world and profited from all of it. But instead, they're a punchline in my talk. That's cold. It's an ice joke. There's a lot of ice jokes, so just stay with them. They're going to keep coming. So what happened? Why didn't they innovate? Well, because they didn't understand what they did. They didn't sell ice. They sold cold. They sold preservation. The invention of Dr. Gorey wasn't a threat to their business. It was their savior. They could have taken that and brought their product to new markets, to new customers around the globe. To pick a parallel example, the first oil companies in the world didn't come from Texas or Saudi Arabia. They came from Europe and New England, and they were whale oil companies. They mined oil out of the heads of sperm whales, which is super metal, by the way. Really, really aggressive, just mining out of people's heads. And what's interesting about this is the whale game was real money. But there are no more whale barons. Why not? Well, because they missed the key lesson. They didn't sell whale oil. They sold heat and light. So when entrepreneurs started digging petroleum out of the ground and refining it into cheaper kerosene, these masters of whaledom fought it in the press as dark and dirty. And within 1 decade, they're out of business. Polaroid actually invented the digital camera. They invented it in the 1970s. I said Polaroid, I meant Kodak. Let's all just ride with that one, okay? They didn't think that people would want to look at photos on screens. That's tough. They were definitely wrong about that. Half of you are looking at photos on screens right now. I can see you taking note. I'm going to see you later. But film wasn't really their product, though they made a lot of money selling film. Their product was what was on the film. It was memories. And because they got caught up in the medium and not what was contained in that medium, they missed the opportunity to shape the future. There's a lot of barriers to innovation. social, technological, legal. But the most important barrier is ideological. It has to do with identity. People don't just fail to innovate because they're stuck in the present time, though that's true. They fail to innovate because they're stuck in something even more fundamental, an inflexible concept of what it is that they do. I don't want to get all Burning Man on you guys, but what you do isn't necessarily the same as what you sell, right? Why people pay you money is more important than what they pay you that money for. This is what the Ice Barons didn't get, or the Whalers, or the Kodak people. They let technology pass them by because they were stuck in a very rigid way of understanding what it is that they did. They became their product, lake ice, not their service, cold, right? They became what they sold, whale oil, and not what they did, heat and light. They identified with their past and their present at the expense of their future. So everyone here, you need to not be constrained by your identity and instead see opportunity in change. Facebook went through a change like this. I've talked a lot about other companies, but we're not immune. When I joined Facebook in 2006, we were a college-only social network. And it may be hard to believe, but a lot of people inside of Facebook fought the idea of opening up beyond colleges. They thought it would kill the company. So how did we do it? How did we decide to take this risk? You know, it's all so obvious in retrospect, but at the time, this was an existential threat. Well, we came to realize something important. At Facebook, our product is connection. And that meant if we passed up on any opportunity to connect people, we were just letting our customers down today and giving our competitors the tools with which to beat us tomorrow. So we opened up, and look at us now. Many people believed this would kill Facebook. They thought we'd go the way of MySpace and Friendster. It didn't happen, but it could have. But it didn't happen, which is pretty good, but it could have. Okay, so it's not always easy to see the future. I think it would have been very, very hard for Kodak to predict the rise of mobile phones. They get a pass. But there is actually something that everyone in this room in 2017 can see coming. It's an important innovation that will affect all of your businesses, and you have no excuse not to see it coming. And that's the mobile phone. Now, I sometimes hear people talk about the mobile revolution as if it's past. They speak about it in the past tense. They talk about winners and losers. Those people are wrong. The biggest impact of mobile phones is still ahead of us. It hasn't yet happened. And the only question those of us in the room today have to ask ourselves is this: will we innovate to take advantage of this innovation? Or will we let the tide wash us over? That brings me to the next point. This is really hard to do. All right. The next point is that once you are open to knowing what it is that you really do in the world, you have to set yourself up for change and innovation. And that all starts with the organization of your organization. So I'll tell another story from Facebook. A long time ago, Facebook didn't have a mobile app. That's not surprising. The only thing that's really surprising is that today we have over 1 billion people every day using Facebook on mobile. Now, to be fair to back when we started, of course we didn't have a mobile app. Back then, phones couldn't do much. You could make phone calls. Do you guys remember phone calls? That was a thing. That happened. If you had a sweet Nokia phone, maybe you could play you a game of Snake. Snake fans in the room? Yeah, big time. That phone just came back out, by the way, so good news for all of us Snake fans. But really, the sea changed when the iPhone came out. By the year 2012, more than half of Facebook users were using the site on mobile. But we were still a desktop-focused company. In fact, we had hundreds of engineers working on the desktop version of our site, and like 30 engineers whose job was to replicate all those features for mobile phones. That math doesn't add up. You can't ask 30 people to replicate the work of hundreds of people in real time. So we had to make a decision. We had realized that if our product is connection, then mobile phones are going to be a much bigger part of connecting people in the future than desktops are. So we made a change. We made every team responsible for both the mobile and desktop version of the same product. It's a small shift, but Mark Zuckerberg would actually end any meeting immediately if someone brought him a product idea that didn't have a mobile prototype. It got the word out. We changed to become mobile first, and engagement took off. To pick a parallel example in the ads industry, if you have a mature traditional ads team and a small digital ads team, you have to ask yourself, is that small digital ad team really set up to have success? You know, every other money-making status quo part of your operation is fully staffed, and you've got this small, understaffed silo. That's never going to affect the degree of change required by the shift to mobile, right? Just like our siloed mobile team couldn't keep us up to date on mobile, neither can your siloed digital ad team. New ideas need a chance to breathe. You can't silo them in an innovation division and give them just enough oxygen to prove the naysayers right. Right? All that does is get you close enough to the summit, to see the summit that you're not willing to climb. So don't silo innovation, integrate it. Finally, real pivots require real commitment. I want you to imagine a railroad company that had set aside a small airplane division, say 30 people, to explore small aircraft. That never would have been enough to realize the dream of air travel that we all know today. All that does is prove that your big ideas don't work at small scale. But we already knew that. There's this quote that I hear Mark say from time to time, which I love. It says, companies fail in one of two ways. They either set ambitious goals and they miss them, or they set mediocre goals and they hit them all the way to obsolescence. Most companies fail in the second way. There will come a time when you have to make a change to the core of how your business operates, and when that time comes, you can't half-ass it. You have to go all in on that change. Good man. There's another quote I like. It goes, a ship is safe in harbor, but that's not what ships are for. And it reminds me that sometimes the riskiest thing is not to risk everything. Or at least not to risk more than you're comfortable risking. Change happens in places of deep discomfort and nowhere else. You might be wondering, where is Facebook putting this lesson into action? Where are we committing to change? Well, I have some surprising comments. You might wonder, what's a social network doing building a fleet of solar-powered airplanes? Why are we so invested in artificial intelligence? What's up with that Oculus acquisition? Well, I tell you this. Our mission is to make the world more open and connected. And if our product is connection, then we can't ignore the 4 billion people without internet connection today. So we're going to fly the internet in. And we want to connect people across language barriers, across disabilities. We want to show people the most interesting and relevant information in the way that's most natural to them. So we develop artificial intelligence. And we want to do for interaction what the telephone did for conversation. Unbound it from the barrier of physical proximity. So we're working on virtual reality. And all of this ties together through our mission to make the world more open and connected, and through our brand. Now, everyone here knows that brands are not just the name of products. Brands are a technology that helped humans scale from connected towns to a connected world. Okay, they have a number of different jobs that they do. First, they convey information about products. They let me order a Jägermeister in Hamburg, knowing it will taste the same as one in California. Please don't pour me a Jägermeister. I'm all good. But Philip, I think, is getting close to needing one.
Finishing your drink.
Yeah. The next is brands convey a sense of identity, right? I'm up here wearing Star Wars-themed Adidas shoes. And that thank you. That tells you something. It tells you I'm a nerd. but maybe like a slightly cool athletic nerd, right? That's my vibe, so let's just spread that around to your friends. And then they also do one more important thing, which is they help us change. Brands are a technology of persistence. It can allow you to communicate quality and identity across new product lines and into new markets. It allows your product, your company, to evolve with the relentless tide of change in technology and innovation. It's what allows Facebook to pursue connection across desktop and mobile and virtual reality and augmented reality and beyond. It's what will sustain us in times of change. Some of my favorite brands really get this. And I'm going to get played off, so I'm going to skip all these. Otto, you were in my talk. God bless you. Yeah, where you at, Otto? You were in my talk. I'll close out with this Henry Ford quote. If I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. Henry Ford did not say this. There's no evidence of that. So check your sources and don't believe everything you see on a slide. But though it's not a real quote, it is a true quote. You have to be willing to try some crazy things. New ideas are going to sound ridiculous at first. Because if you're not willing to try crazy things, there is somebody else smaller than you, hungrier than you, who is. So if you're not willing to try it, your ice castle isn't just melting, it's on fire! Yep, this is the payoff slide. Just enjoy that for 1 second, and then I'm going to get off the stage. Thanks.
Man.